My mom, Terry, is trying to control my life and my marriage.
I don't care for my son-in-law, Greg. Greg's really just tearing our family apart.
Terry is trying to make me out to be a monster. I think she wants me completely out of the picture.
Greg has called me a bitch, crazy and bipolar. I don't think I've ever called him any names.
Terry has called me a worthless piece of scum of the earth.
And the problem started when Greg and I moved in together.
Terry agreed to come and watch the boys while Amy and I went on our honeymoon. But when we came home, Jordan stated to us, his Mimi had told him that he could call her mommy and that he could come live with her anytime that he wanted to. And that if I ever popped his butt for doing anything wrong, to call her and she'd take care of it.
Jordan says Greg whips his ass every morning. Greg yells at him and cuts him down.
Terry thinks I'm beating Jordan. When I say that I'm popping Jordan's butt, this would be his butt. This is my hand. It's stern enough that he feels it, but it's not to the point where it's a violent abuse as she makes it out to be.
My mom accused Greg of putting a diaper on Jordan, who was 4, and taking him to school like that. Jordan came to me and told me that he just told Mimi that because that's what she wanted to hear.
I've raised 3 children. I know when a child's lying to me. I don't think that Jordan's lying.
I basically gave her an ultimatum. If my mom was going to continue to ask Jordan questions and badgering him for information that is not true, she would not be allowed to come over.
Terry is not allowed in our house anymore. If she ever sees the kids, it's supervised. I don't want her near me to make up stories because she's very good at making them up.
Greg's trying to get Amy to choose between her family and him.
One big bone of contention is this incident that Terry says caused her to call CPS. This took place on the day we're talking about in question here. Take a look.
This past summer, my mom and my sister both came to the house to see Jordan. My mom and Brittany started whispering, and I asked them nicely just to not whisper.
Amy comes in the living room, and she says, they're sitting back there whispering about me. Now I want them to leave.
She just starts screaming at us in front of the kids, cussing.
And I picked Jordan up, and I hugged him, and I kissed him. When I did that, Amy came over, and she grabbed my arms.
I was not sure if she was going to try to kidnap him, so I put my hand on my mom's shoulder.
Amy said, you need to put my son down, and you need to leave my house.
So Amy goes over there, and she grabs Jordan. He's latched onto Mom, and she pulls him so hard. They all go, like, just across the room.
I was not trying to take Jordan. The only thing that I was doing was picking him up and giving him a hug.
At that time, my sister was standing behind me, was coming to reach towards me. Greg, my husband, put his arm up to block her from hurting me.
Greg comes running from across the room, and he pulls up his fist. And I flinched, and it scared me.
I came across my arm, just like this, not trying to hurt her, just trying to stop her.
Greg picks up the phone and calls the cops. When they know that the cops are on the way, they leave.
Maybe a week later, Amy called me, and she said, I know that you called Child Protective Services on us.
My mother, Terry, was the one that called Child Services on me and filled out a report.
As a grandmother, what I'm wanting to do is just protect Jordan.
Do y'all not know better than to behave this way?
It's Dr. Phil, excuse me.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, please.
Baby latches onto Mom.
This is Chad.
Hey, the baby latches onto Mom multiple times. He feels safe with her. And I've seen that. I mean, he doesn't want her to leave. It's ridiculous to think that my mom would be stealing Jordan.
Oh, ridiculous is not a big enough word to describe this entire situation.
No, but there's no way Amy would ever think that my mom would take Jordan and steal him.
That's why I ask you seriously, did you think your mother was going to go on the lam and be missing in America for like 3 years?
No, I did not. And that was my point. That's what it came across as. No, I did not think that she was going to walk out the door. But I also did not think that all of this would arise either, where I'm being accused of things that I have not even done. I'm being accused of being a bad mother when all I do is take care of those children, and I love them with every ounce of my heart. I also have another son, but he's never brought up in this situation. It's always, is Jordan okay? Is Jordan okay? Well, is Jackson okay? If Jordan's not okay, then Jackson wouldn't be okay.
You believe he's physically abusive to the children. You said that, right?
I do.
You said he can't keep a job. He got fired for falling asleep on his job. You said he curses all the time. He made Jordan, who's 5, wear a diaper to school.
No, he didn't wear him to school.
Well, that's what you said.
No, I didn't say he wore a diaper to school right before he took him to school. That's what I said. And Jordan sucks his thumb and rubs his blanket, which he tells me that he's not allowed to do anymore. So Jordan told me that Greg put a diaper on him before he took him to school. And this was when Jordan was 4.5 years old. So I questioned Jordan about it. I said, what do you mean? He said, Greg told me if I was going to act like a baby that I had to wear a diaper and I had to suck my thumb.
Okay, did that happen, by the way? Did you put him in a diaper?
He was sucking his thumb, and I said, Jordan, big boys don't suck their thumb. He said, who does? And I said, babies. He said, you mean the one that wear diapers? I said, yes. And he said, well, I don't want to do that. All my friends at school would laugh at me. That was the end of it.
You didn't put him in a diaper?
No, absolutely not.
But he's also going to tell you he didn't raise his fist at my sister Brittany, and I believe wholeheartedly he
And he's
did.
also going to tell you that I called him names.
And you did. You've called me names on the phone. You've called me names in person. You've called me names repeatedly.
And you say he marries women with children and preys on them.
Yes,
And he's married 3 times. You've been married how many times?
4 times.
4 times? This-
Dr. Phil, she's also 55, or he's
54.
30. I'm sorry. 54. I mean, that's perspective. She's been married 4 times, but she got married to my dad twice. I mean, you can make things into what you want, but she...
Well, I wish I could make things into what I wanted, because if I could make things into what I wanted, I would stop this petty bickering. I would stop this right fighting. I would stop this going back and forth. And I would respect that there are boundaries here that you guys, whether you like it or not, this is who she married. You don't get a vote. You don't get to choose. It's not your husband, it's your sister's. It's your daughter. She's a grown woman. They have their own family, so you got to decide to make the best of it. I'm not interested in any more bickering, so I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm sending you guys off. What I want you to do is I want you to go backstage, and I want you to decide if you have a question for me. Seriously, a question that I can answer that has a verb in the answer. Okay? I'm through listening to the bicker. I want you to go back and decide whether or not there's something that you want to ask me that has a constructive impact on these 2 children. I'll tell you why I agreed to book this story and do this story, because these children are caught in the crossfire. I'm concerned about them. You have wasted my time. You have wasted each other's time. Somebody's lying, and I want somebody to come back here and tell me the truth. You know what I respect is when a guest comes in and says, you know what, Dr. Phil, it's a bad situation here. I want to know what I can do to make this better. I don't want you to fix her or him or him. I want to know what I can do to make this better. The only person I control is me. So what can I do to make this better? And I get that sometimes. Didn't hear any of that from anybody here. You're all just wanting to continue your bickering, and you didn't need to come here to do that, right? I mean, so I'm just like, I could have walked off and put a tackling dummy here. So I just said, time out. Go see if you can get this out and decide if there's a question. Do you have a question?
I do have a question.
And?
My question is, do you think that my grandsons are okay in this situation that they're in because they tell me things and I just can't turn my back on them when they do tell me the things?
Do I think they're okay?
Do you think my grandson's lying, or do you think he's telling me the truth when he tells me
When he tells you
horrible
what?
things?
Like what? Let's define horrible.
Okay, horrible things to me is he says that he gets, that Greg whips his ass. He tells me that he gets a diaper put on to humiliate him, that Greg calls him names, that Greg, like abusive type things. And it just upsets me so bad. And he tells me these things, and it's like, what can I do? I feel like I want to be his advocate. I mean, he trusts me, and I feel like I'm turning my back on him if I don't do anything or say anything. And the only reason that I went to the Child Protective Services is when I saw the physical thing going on in the children.
And what did they conclude?
They didn't tell me anything. Amy had told me that they laughed at me when they came over to her house.
Well, but did they remove the children for a period of time or anything?
They didn't.
So they did an objective and independent study, and they didn't find any cause to intervene.
As far as
said
they
there's
never.
no way to prove anything.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no way.
There's no
And they
way.
said there's no way to prove like.
Okay, so here, I'm going to answer your
emotional.
question. I'm going to answer your question. No, I don't think anything's happening here that's actionable. Do they, or does he parent the way you would? I think not. But do I think that he is someone that is physically, mentally, emotionally abusing these children? I can't know that for sure, but I don't think so. And I have a lot of confidence in Amy that she would have the backbone, substance, and moral compass to stand up and protect her children. So I'm assuming that you are not so depraved in love and,
No, I have been in
and
a
all
situation.
that you would sacrifice your children to be with Mr. Wonderful if he was abusing them?
No, I have been in some awful situations and horrible relationships in the past. I have learned from those. Everybody makes mistakes, and I have learned from that. I am a strong, independent person, and I make my own decisions. I am happy with the life that I live, and every night that I lay down and my head hits that pillow, I'm happy with the decisions I make. I'm happy with my husband. I love him so much.
Okay, I didn't ask you if you loved him. I'm asking you if you are protecting your children.
I am protecting my children. I would not put my children in a situation where somebody else was hurting them. I have been in that situation before where that was possible, and I removed myself immediately from that situation.
Y'all don't have to like Greg, but y'all can show respect when y'all are around.
I never had respect from him.
He cusses and yells at us. He pulled his fist back at me.
When you pulled yours back at me,
okay,
you
so
damn
you
right
did.
I did.
See, that's you did
She
say
drew
that.
hers back at me.
She's a little girl. Well,
This
if it
is the
didn't happen, I'm
reason,
sorry.
Greg, we don't like you. These are the things that have happened.
These are the things
that we
I've
don't
seen,
like.
okay? And now Jordan, he loves mom, and you know that. He
You know
feels
how he
safe
feels.
with
Okay,
mom.
but can I say something in that
Yes,
defense?
but let me finish and you can say whatever. He feels safe with mom, and he feels safe with Brittany, okay? He confides in them.
I always am so non-judgmental of anybody you've ever been with.
But I
And the
always put
stuff
my
that
kids first,
and the stuff
Amy.
that you
I
have put
always
me
put my
through.
kids
I have been
first.
so non-judgmental. You've always put your kids first. What are you doing now? I am your child.
You're my
Put
gro-
me first.
You're my grown child, Amy.
Then put me first
You're my-
instead of your grandchild.
Baby, they can't take up for themselves.
But you can take up for me. You can start to believe me instead of shutting me out of
You're
your
a
life.
grown-up,
I have
Amy.
one-
You're the
Take up for
mother.
Brittany still? She's a grown
She's
up.
21, Greg.
You
She's
take up for him.
She's-
You know what?
Well, I agree with them. I'm not taking up with them.
I miss you so much, and I want us to be a part of each other's lives when we're doing this. I don't care who did what anymore. We can't be that way.
What do we do,
Okay.
Dr.
Can I
Phil?
ask a question real quick?
What?
I'm sorry. What do we do? I mean, you see how we act.
Yeah,
you see
I
how
do,
we've
yeah.
acted. I mean, how do we repair this? How do we get
all
better?
have different opinions, and they clash, and we can't get past that. And
Okay, you've got to respect boundaries here. These aren't your children. Y'all are your aunts and uncles to these children and grandparents. You may not like every decision they make, and that's not your job to like it. It's okay. That's theirs. They don't work for you. It's not your life. And I'll guarantee you, if you started coming in and telling me how to run my marriage and my family, it would be a very short conversation. I'd say thank you. Door would close, and you'd be talking to yourself. So you have to recognize that it's not something that you can control, you can only influence, and you can only do that by inspiring change, not requiring change. If you want this to be more loving and peaceful, then be more loving and peaceful.
I posed the question to Amy. If my son came to her
Well,
and
you
told
turned
her
it
that,
over to Child
what do we do?
Protective Services. They've investigated, and they're very skilled at this, and they found no cause for action. You're here. We're outing it. You're talking to your sister here. I think you need to just pay attention and respect your boundaries.
Do you have a story or a question for me? Click the link in the description and tell me what in the world is going on.